freeze some.
Yeah, but I mean, it's better after 2 or 3 days in the fridge anyway.
No. I have butters.
Fish. At least it's cooling down.
It is. Well,
Good evening, Bully. Why did I get kicked out yesterday? I don't know.
because you said something silly to rematch.
Oh, okay. $102 here today, Bully, in the middle of autumn. Welcome to a warming planet. No, shops are all full, no problem there. No, it won't. Keep on dreaming, Bully.
What's that song? Dream, 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 dream. Oh, damn, I can't think of that song now.
Why not? Two reasons why not. There's no vaccine for it. Your country is in a state of calamity. Your country has areas popping up every day. At the moment, the official figures for your country, Bully, are that 500,000 people have it. Now that's just the ones that tested. if you want to be realistic, multiply that by 10. So a minimum of 5 million Americans have it. And that's scientists saying it, not me, by the way. Testing figures are only the figures of people who have been tested for it. But they believe there are 5 million Americans with it. And you have clusters all over the place popping up. Some of the areas might get better, but this is the first wave of the pandemic. Just need to Google second and third waves of pandemics. Then you can get back to me. It may indeed be May, but not of this year. So you've got to do what everyone else is doing. In Australia, we're all staying home, getting paid for the privilege. No, it doesn't have to wait for a flu season. It's got nothing to do with the flu, bully. So a lot of people get confused. They think that this is only a cold climate event. Not true. Indonesia is in absolute chaos. Parts of your states down south having 90 and 95 degrees right now. And parts of those states have massive clusters of the virus. So temperature is being ruled out as an issue. And it's not seasonal. There's a huge difference. When you have a seasonal flu, as they call it, it's because it's cold, it's nasty, it's wet, and the particular viruses have been around forever. And sometimes we get it and sometimes we don't. But you need to understand, even the seasonal flu, even if you have a shot for it, you know, the flu shot, that's only good for one. There are 6 corona flu viruses. A lot of people get confused saying, well, this is a corona, so it's a flu. No, it's not. This is a totally different beast. And we've got to be realistic, and we have to hunker down those people who have had the virus. And today's alarming news from South Korea is 91 people who have definitely been confirmed to have had it. Some were pretty bad, but they recovered. 91 people who had it have now got it again. So it's not a one-off thing, or 10 people, or this is 91 people specifically tested, confirmed. These people were in hospital. They were released. Their blood tests showed that it had gone. Then they fell ill again. So it lay dormant within them for weeks. We don't know enough about it. It's certainly not a flu, even though you'll get pneumonia like flu, but this is caused in a different way. And just thinking we can open up and get back to normal is crazy talk. We have to play it like a boxer. We have to go each round, survive each round, lay some punches, duck, cover, keep fighting on. So if this virus was a boxing match, we're still in round 1. So that we will know the opening in May. Well, at the peril of people who open again, bully, and then a second wave is bigger than the first, your country already today has the same amount of percentage of people out of work that were out of work in 1929. Just imagine if a second wave, because you went back too early, hit. There are people getting food boxes in the United States now because they've got no money. They've got no food. In 1929, they used to call that the bread line. And it's happening today in your country. I do believe your president's been very kind in offering $1,200 to people. Not sure how $1,200 stretches over 12 months, but maybe there's a lot of noodles and rice involved. I don't know. No, 1,200 is a drop in the ocean. It helps some people for a short time. So people can be realistic or they can be hopeful. You can be both, of course, but realistically, you just need to look at countries that are suppressing the virus. My country is one of them. We've had, tragically, 54 people in my whole country, unfortunately, have passed away. No, nor do we, bully. But so 54 people. And we started at the same time, if not just slightly before the US, recording our first death. But we all decided to go home, shut shop, take kids out of school. You can walk around our streets and it's like tumbleweed. No one's out because they're being smart. It was hopeful that people who had the virus and were cleared could recommence some of the jobs they did. But now, because of that information from South Korea, that 91 people have reported to be reinfected or the virus was dormant within them, and that's a bit of a worry. Just because you get over it, maybe it doesn't mean you don't have it. So this is one of the unusual viruses that doesn't follow the line of being seasonal. It happens all over the world, and each part of the world is different in their seasons right now. I think because China has gone back, in my opinion, way too early. We're going to see a second wave in China shortly. Maybe we won't hear about it. The Chinese government is a little bit, well, what should we say, not forthcoming with a lot of information. Like I said, bully, you've got to play this like a boxer. This is round one. Taken a few blows, but you're still standing. Sit down or relax, drink some water, towel off, get ready for round two. Is that being a pessimist? No. I'm a realist. I listen to virologists and epidemiologists that tell you the facts. This is not the flu. It's probably, maybe the media should be told not to use the words flu or flu-like symptoms. Each disease has similar symptoms, but you minimize it by saying it's just a flu, because it's not. One of the strange things, bully, which studies have proven, is there's a couple of common traits when people contract the virus. One is they don't sneeze, which is strange, isn't it? They don't sneeze. They do lose a sense of taste. This is quite a common occurrence. That sometimes happens when you have the common cold, which I'm sure you're aware of. So it's a symptom like what the common cold is. But like I say, each virus is different. You don't see a lot of people sneeze who have this. Cough, yes. but not sneeze. Not in general, anyway. The virus today would have been lucky to survive in my area based on heat theory. There's some countries that are just working on the human herd immune system, and they are having terrible results. The one thing which makes obvious, logical and lateral sense to me is that all countries should pick a similar day to start reopening, not individually, because that way a controlled measure can be done. Just to open up like China have at the moment, I think it's silly, and I think they're taking a risk, and I think they're trying to prove a point which may cost more lives. But the country most affected at the moment, which does release its figures, is the United States. 500,000 officially have the virus. That's only the ones that have been tested. But some of the clusters coming up around the US are horrifying. Hello, Off-Grid Texas. I've seen you for a while. We got most things done. There's still bits and pieces to do, like I'm refurbishing the old windows. Finish this one off, the one that goes into our main bedroom. I'll show you in a sec. I was going to do another window today, but Gday, it was 102 degrees here today, in the middle of autumn. Anyway, there's the boss.
Oh. Hey.
Oh, you took a nickel tour. Oh, yeah. Well, I finished cleaning this one up. They come up pretty good. I've got 2 more to do, the other bedroom and the office. And then I'm basically done. I hear that Texas is having a bit of an outbreak at the moment. Hopefully nowhere near you. In most cities of Australia, you could fire a gunshot down the main streets and you wouldn't hit anyone. Everyone's not out, everyone's at home. Yeah, 1 or 2 locally. I know Danny, who comes in here, she actually works in a hospital. There's a bit of a cluster around Dallas at the moment. Yeah, I think that's a good idea, Bully. If you have your iPad Pro, that's obviously going to ward off any viruses. It's an Apple guarantee, apparently. We got some vegetable plant or timber ones the other day. It's a bit hard to get anything delivered at the moment. Yeah, New South Wales is probably the hardest hit state, but I think they were saying 70%. We've lost 54 people in Australia, which is sad, but it's a low figure. But most of them, up to about 45 of them, came off cruise ships. Doesn't really bode well for the cruise ship industry, knowing that being so confined. We all know about gastro outbreaks on cruise ships normally, but yeah, delivery's a big thing now, everywhere. They talk about bringing back home milk deliveries and bread deliveries. The reason why they died off in the past, because they didn't become viable. But it's a different reason why people are getting home deliveries now. we'll get through this, but it's not going to be a quick fix. And some of those conditions you see in shops now where there are dots on the floor, that's going to remain the norm. That's the new world. Distance in between people will become commonplace. Restaurants. I've already spoke the Association of Restaurants in Australia, which covers about 80,000 restaurants. They're going to minimise tables and chairs within restaurants, even if tomorrow everything was okay. So instead of having 50 tables and chairs in a restaurant, there'll be 30 or 25. It's going to be the new norm. Yeah, I think it'll boom. There's a lot of things, like I said the other day, Gday, if tomorrow the World Health Organization said it's all finished and there is no more virus, it's all gone, people are not going to rush back to what they used to do. There's not going to be a lot of booking on cruise liners, for starters. There's very few people flying internationally because they have lack of confidence, and people won't spend as much money. So returning to the workforce won't be an instantaneous, like, 100 people in a, hello Buttercup, 100 people in a factory will put off. If the demand's not there, the factory owners will only put on the demand amount of people that's needed. It might be 20. And then in 6 months it might be 50. But people are going to be quite tight with their money, because a lot of people have realised not having any savings at the moment is disastrous. Yeah, you're in sort of a field of work where most of the time you work alone anyway. So building still happens here. Contractors still do their jobs. Construction. But they all have to adhere to social distancing, which is pretty tough on a building site, as you know. Everyone's itching to get going again, but it's the consumers, it's the mass people who go to shops, restaurants, hotels, go into accommodation. The first thought in most people's mind, imagine, say, a couple of people and their 2 kids I'll just throw it out, in Texas, want to go to the West Coast. And the all clear's been given, but they say be cautious still. And they're going to book into hotels. The first thing they do when they open the door is going to say, well, is this, clean? Has it been disinfected? There's going to be all these thoughts going through people's names.
Minds.
It's just too early to go back, Gday. The United States at the moment is terrible. It's not happening at the same time in the same places. You've got clusters popping up everywhere. And because people move around all over the country all of the time, it's okay saying one area is sort of good and everyone's back to work, but another area is disastrous. They need a national plan. They need to open collectively. It's the gathering of people, which means consumers, that will be the issue. If the US goes back too early, they'll have another second wave. Trump is working on it. Well, your president did make a statement about 2 weeks ago saying tomorrow, Easter Sunday, for us, everyone will be holding hands in church and singing hallelujah. Yeah, it'll be good. It's not that big a deal. It's beautiful. I've got it all worked out. It's perfect. Yeah. No, it's not. Like I say, the US at the moment is so fragmented. You've got parts of the US in absolute dire straits. Others not too bad. Some slightly recovering, but new areas popping up. And there's no national collective thought. It's like the president saying, well, you states work it out. Well, today your country passed officially 500,000 people who have been tested have it. That's the official, but they don't test everyone. And virologists say you can multiply that by 10 to get a real figure. And if they're just going to ignore it and think we can all rock back and keep going, and then there are huge cluster outbreaks again. The hardest thing, I think, KD, is to reopen too early. It becomes disastrous, and then you close again. Then when do you reopen again? It's catch-22. There's no thought in Australia until June comes around. That's the official doctrine, that we will relook at it again. People here are guaranteed $1,500 a fortnight, every fortnight for 6 months. So from March, April, May, June, July, August. Up till August, every Australian will get, for doing nothing, will get $1,500 a fortnight each. So money's not an issue. That's the biggest problem, Katie, is being asymptomatic. Not even having a headache, no cough, but you carry it. And then you reopen too early. And you happen to be a checkout chick. You're feeling fine. And 300 people over a week fall ill in that area. And they all point back to one girl who doesn't know she has it. She had no intention of giving it to anyone because she didn't know. That bit of the virus has not been worked out. In South Korea today, they announced 91 people who were cleared and were hospitalised before, cleared of the virus. It's no longer in their system. Now those 91 people have it again, weeks and months after they had it initially. You only have 50 cases here in my country. I think you mean county. I hope you mean county, because the official figures are 500,000 for America. Two palm trees. You need to look for an article, Buttercup, about South Korea finding 91 people who had it and were cleared. Their blood tests showed they didn't have it anymore. But what it did was hide, and it was dormant. And now they have it again. And some aren't in a good way. So these people were in hospital, cleared, yep, you can go home, you've no longer got it. And now they've got it again. We don't understand this virus and how it works, and why this has reoccurred, or whether it was dormant. The countries that go back too early to normal will pay a terrible price, in my eyes. We all want to get back to normal. If you did a vote today and asked the people of the world to clap their hands, do we want to go back to normal? It'd be like a thunderclap around the planet. Of course, everyone wants to get back to normal. But if I blindfold 3 people and tell them, I want you to trust me, and run across a 12-lane freeway, flat out, just keep running on a busy freeway. By pure chance, maybe one of the 3 will get to the other side, but not all 3. If you're going to go blindfolded back into what was normal without knowing the facts, it'd be like running across that freeway with a blindfold. There's a lot of reporting about how the contraction figures have dropped. And the answer to that, that's not really true. The only way that you would know if the virus is reducing in the community is to test everyone. Just because the numbers drop in a test, what does that mean? That means just the people they tested it's reduced. So they're not really true figures. There are probably clusters about to explode in the US that no one knows about because it takes an incubation period. I did read something like 100,000 New Yorkers left New York weeks ago just to get away. Where are they? And one of the things I wish people would realise is people don't want to get the damn virus, but there's a bit of stigma attached to it when people have it and they're treated like lepers. That's wrong. They've got the disease, but it could be you. Well, if you drop dead, you don't need to worry about it, Jojo. Well, like I say, I don't know the answers. I do know going back early is stupid. Everyone wants to get back to normal. That's not a question. It's when. Because there is no cure, there is no vaccine. The reason why numbers drop is because people have been adhering to social distancing, staying home, not going out. That's why the numbers have fallen. There is no other reason to expect otherwise. It's not just because, oh, it's getting weaker and things are better. No, it's because people are listening and staying home. If you reopen too early, you just open the floodgates once again. And I do not think the United States could cope with a second wave bigger than the first wave. It'll be a new normal, that's right, Buttercup. I'm going to New York, $99 round trip. Do they supply the bicycle, Jojo, or you've got to bring your own? In my country, you can't go from one area in my state to another. You'll be fine. You can't leave the state. No one can come into the state. There are no aircraft in the air. It's completely impossible. There are people flying back from overseas with mercy missions that have been arranged. There's a couple that live in West Australia that have just landed from Peru in Sydney. They've got to do the 14 days in a hotel. And if they're positive, they'll go to a hospital. That's how it works in Australia. You don't just stay at home. And then, if they get all clear, they have to fly back to this state of mind. And even when they land after they've been cleared of the virus, they'll spend another 14 days in a hotel. But after that, they'll be allowed to go home. I have no idea why you'd be going to New York, Jojo. It's your business, of course, but if I was there and you said, would you like to come with me? I'd be saying no. Yeah, you could do that, KD. You'd probably come down with another virus. Yeah, well, the Spanish flu was an exception of viruses because the second wave was actually the mutation, and it was worse than the first. Now, people need to know that's not normally true. A mutation of a virus generally gets weaker, and the scientific thinking behind it is that a virus that kills its host doesn't have anywhere to live. So a virus starts to learn, even though it's not a living thing, it learns not to be as aggressive and not kill. So it mutates to live within the body, but not to kill the host. That's what most viruses do. The Spanish flu was a bit different. The second mutation was horrendous. Figures between 50 and 100 million people. But that was from 1919 through to 1921-22, so it was 3 and 4 years. There was no vaccine. This is the bit that gives a bit of hope to humanity. There was no vaccine for the Spanish flu, and it didn't return. after 1922. Not in numbers anyway, that's not recorded. So it naturally did what virologists say viruses do. It became weaker. It may still have been with people. You know, those people you might have met in the 1920s who had a constant cough, they still went to work. And maybe they still had Spanish flu, but the actual virus mutated to be slightly benign and just to coexist with its host. Well, yeah, one thing it's not seasonal. I think that's the International Space Station I'm watching go by.
Well, how do you know that?
Because it's not an aircraft.
When?
Well, if you come out a bit, look up in the sky.
Oh.
Yes, we're watching. It's probably the safest place to be on the, well, off the planet at the moment is the International Space Station.
It's actually moving really weird.
Yeah, well, it moves a lot quicker than you think.
Oh, I'm just going to make a coffee.
All right.
Do you want coffee?
Yeah, another one. Rice. Well, yeah, rice will help. I worry about Americans on the poverty line who are not eligible for any payments other than the $1,200. I was watching a video, and I think it was California, I could be wrong, but I watched a video this morning about thousands of people picking up boxes of food. Not big boxes, but there was food. And it reminded me of the statistics I read earlier in the morning about America's unemployed. Today in America, it's the same percentage of people out of work that were out of work in 1929. You take that however you like, but the same percentage of people have lost their jobs as they did in 1929. And already people are lining up to get food. Yeah, America's like Australia. We're a net producer. We only eat 20% of the food we produce in Australia. America's not that high, but it's pretty high. So there's no problem in getting the food. Is how do people get it? Do they get given it? Is there going to be like a Friday roll call where you can pick up about 80, 90 bucks worth of food for your family? Not sure how that's going to work. Because some people are not eligible for unemployment in the US. Means they're in total poverty right now, other than that $1,200 check, which won't go long. In Australia, there's a moratorium. If you've got a mortgage, you can freeze it. You can access what you call your 401k, which is superannuation here. And the government's giving people a fair whack of money each week for not working, just to tide them over. So food and accommodation, you can't be booted out. You cannot be evicted in Australia for 6 months. It's closed shop. Someone even doesn't pay their rent for the next 6 months, they can't be evicted. But, so no one's worrying about food and no one's worrying about money in Australia. It's boredom that's killing people here. Like this particular weekend, I'm sure Gday would remember Easter long weekend in Australia. Of the 25 million people that live here, 5 million people will be running around elsewhere in the country, spending a week or two on holiday. You can't do that. You get fined. So you can't go anywhere. Sounds a bit draconian, a bit like harsh, but it's smart. Well, that may be happening in little areas, but I fear for your country, buddy, more than any other country. When you talk about not having money for food. You'll get isolated cases, I'm sure, of people doing that. But no one in the UK is going hungry. No one in Australia is going hungry. Well, no, the thing is, Jojo, you can't go there. Believe it or not, even in Australia, if you've got a girlfriend and you've got your own place and she's got her own place, you can't go there. You'll have to dial a friend. In my state, if you're a repeat offender, like you want to go fishing or you want to take the boys down the river to have a few drinks and a barbecue, well, the first time you get a warning in my state. The second time, you get an ankle bracelet. That's right. Second offence, you get a bigger fine, but you get an ankle bracelet, and it's hooked into the mainframe. And if you go out again and you shouldn't, they'll take the ankle bracelet off you because they're going to put you in prison. That's my state. So you need to listen up. It sounds draconian. It sounds very harsh. Yep. In fact, in the tills in Australia, if you want to buy like 3 items, it'll be a red screen comes up saying, not available. In other words, you can't have 3. You can have 2, but you can't have 3. So they're pretty tough on that. Yeah, those maps are becoming quite common. They're cluster maps, that's what they call them here. Yeah, lots of people are shopping for elderly people here. Gday, they'll get their list and pay for it and then get the old people to just give them the money or transfer it online. That's happening in a huge way. Old people are really scared, and they'd be right to be. You'll be alive, Jojo. Hello, Mel. Well, the government here is giving food to older people too. There's a special thing that's happening. The pensioners, KD here, are getting double the payments. So they say they were on $800 a fortnight, now they're getting $1,600. So they can afford home deliveries. That's usually only about $20 or $15 for a big shop anyway. Yep, a lot of people doing that here. It's bringing out the good in people, KD. That's the bit I like. I hoped it would happen, and it is happening. A lot of people are thinking about other people. And I hope that the residue from this pandemic and the ensuing years is that people think more about other people. Like, we don't have homeless in my state. They're all in hotels. So what can happen? Well, we can end homelessness. We've just proved it. You know, there's going to be a hue and cry if they start kicking them all out onto the streets because the pandemic's ended. How about it worked. You got the homeless off the street. They're clean. They're eating meals. Yeah, there are drug problems everywhere. That's one issue. But get them off the street. They'll have a sense of pride. Some of these people wouldn't have had a shower room or a toilet like they've got at the moment in a hotel. So it can be done. All around the world, homeless people have been taken off the street and put into accommodation. So it can happen. I bet we make it happen full time. That will be interesting to see what happens. Yeah, that's dead right, buddy. When you talk about the reality is that these homeless people, and they've been given clothes, and there's 3 meals a day being dropped off to them. They're not infected. They're just in hotel rooms. They're probably sitting there playing with the remote thinking, geez, this is good. Opening up the bar fridge, having a shower every day. Why can't that happen every day? I think if you had homeless people in good accommodation, a lot of them would change for the better. Some will never change. We know that. But Australians have no indication to go back in May to normal. That's not even a thought process here. Well, the thing about homeless people, Kate, is if they are in accommodation, services can be sent to them because they know where they are. Generally, homeless people are itinerant. They'll move around all over the place, depending on the weather, whether they're getting harassed. So services have no idea where they are. But it'll be a lot easier for them to have an abode where people can come and talk about education, maybe talk about going to a school, especially designed for adult learning. People who still deliver food to the homeless would know where they are. So it boils down to that there's a lot more to do with being homeless than just not having a place to live. A lot of people just don't realise how close many people are to being homeless, particularly in America at the moment. I don't know whether you guys have got a guarantee that you cannot be evicted for 6 months, but that's what it is in Australia. You can't be evicted under no circumstance. If that's not the case in the US, and people run out of their $1,200, can't get unemployment, and the landlords say, get out, they're homeless. But like I say, there's some good things coming out of this. Sense of community, caring for other people, a bit of goodness being shown, and that's a good thing. Here you would think government housing would be at least secure for Americans. But let's say in one city 1,000 people become homeless by the beginning of May. Where the hell are they going to go? We've got summer approaching. Yep, there's a bit of that in it for sure, Buttercup. There's plenty of people, I used to be a prison officer, buddy, there's plenty of people that would just tell the judge to get stuffed, they're homeless, they get charged with vagrancy, which was always a weird law. Most of those people would go into a cell and throw a rug on the floor and sleep on the floor. They would say, I can't sleep on the mattress. They weren't being funny, they're used to sleeping rough. Thank you. We have a cuppa, yeah. Prisons are a weird place because if I was given carte blanche, 90% I'd kick up the arse and kick them out of jail. You shouldn't go to jail for being stupid. 10% I'd put on the electric chair. No one should be going to jail for fines, either, in my eyes. I can't do anything about that, buddy. Unfortunately, jails aren't segregated into not so bad guys, really bad guys, and terrible guys. It's not how it works. And most people in maximum in jails, and that's all over the world, they're not usually the most evil prisoners. They're just the most vulnerable. They're scared. They're terrified. Even when they could have their hour of exercise, they wouldn't leave their cell. Just terrified. And under Section 10, which was a ruling that allowed individuals to say, I do not want to be mixed into the community. They didn't have to be. They could have a single cell, but it was in maximum, which means they only had an hour's exercise a day. Because in maximum, you do have hardened criminals. And you can't put the vulnerable in amongst them. So you'd have 20 murderers running around for most of the day. And I'll be honest with you, most murderers are crimes of passion. You can have very good conversations with them. They're normal people, except they've killed their wife because they come home and found her in bed with the postman. And they're spending 20 years in jail. Other than that, they're a good bloke. There's a very simple solution to the drug problem. Very simple. You legalise every drug known to man. Legal, so there is no criminology in taking drugs. There will be a crime if you're driving stoned or you attack someone under the influence of drugs. That's not a problem. You still go to jail. But you won't go to jail for the crime of taking drugs. What would that do? Well, there would be no need for drug dealers because it's all legal. Simple. Everyone's got problems, but the main problem is making taking drugs a crime. That's silly. If they commit a crime under the influence of drugs, well, yeah, go to jail. Yep, there'd be a lot of tax revenue. You could go to the drugstore and say, I'd like 3 grams of heroin. Do you have any of that rose tip marijuana? Can I have a couple of ounces of that? And have you got any acid? I wouldn't mind. You got a packet of 12. I'll have that. How much is that? That's $98 seeds plus $30 tax. Okay. 2 things. One, it would be cheaper to buy your drugs. By the way, I don't take drugs. It would be cheaper to buy your drugs, and mainly there are no drug dealers. 0. Simple. But no one's going to listen to me because, let's be honest, there's a lot of money in running a private jail. Get people thrown in there, get paid enormous amounts of money from the government. That's a good idea. That's how it works. You know, if we went back to true crime and punishment, you could all answer in your own way here in the room if you like. What's a true crime? Me, it's murder, rape, pedophilia. It gets a bit narrower after that for me. Murder, rape, pedophilia, assault, causing harm. Yeah, they're crimes. But for having 2 ounces of marijuana in your pocket, or sitting in a car in the US where some bloke gets out and shoots someone else, you don't even know it, you drive off, the police catch you and him, he gets sentenced to 25 years in jail, and so do you, by association. Had no idea he was going to hop out the car and shoot people. How many people do you think are in jail in the US for things like that? Well, the answer is a lot. A lot. Anyway, crime in itself has lost its way in regards to punishment. Why Why do you like find a homeless man that's taking LSD and put him in jail for 6 months? What's the point? It's very hard to get some people to work in prisons, Buttercup. They just refuse. And they have right to refuse, believe it or not. Yeah, there's some very draconian rules, particularly in China, Saudi Arabia. Buddy's having his lunch and I'll slip my hand up underneath and grab his wallet. I get caught. Buddy will be invited to the punishment. He won't be allowed to administer it because it's done through proper causes, but they'll cut my hands off. Crime, punishment. A lot of people wouldn't agree with that, but I'm not going to be able to steal Buddy's wallet ever again, unless I do it with my teeth. It's a weird one. You've lived in both countries, KD. We don't have the death penalty in Australia. We have people never to be released, though. They will never get out. We don't have mass shootings. We've had one major mass shooting in Tasmania many years ago from an absolute Fruit Loop. There was no terrorism act in this one. He was just crazy. David Bryant was his name. 35 people lost their life that day because he went round like a pioneer village, a historical colonial place, Port Arthur, and he killed 35 people. Luckily, more didn't die. But I can read the newspaper from the US or go online, and every week there's a mass shooting, maybe twice a week sometimes. And it's like the community seems like deadened to the thoughts, like, oh, that's terrible. 12 people lost their life. Shocking. Next few days, 9 people lost their life. That's terrible. Every week? It's like, that's normal. It's not normal. If I ask Buttercup how many mass shootings occur in the UK, she can probably remember a couple. And some of those were terrorist acts, not just mad men. I think if people drank more beer, KD, there'd be less shootings. See, if KD was in Australia and we're having an argument and it's full heated up, push, shove, a few punches thrown, might be about 20 minutes, it dies down and I've got a black eye, he's got 2 teeth missing, we'd probably have a beer. Sit down and laugh about it. But at no time would we pull out a weapon. It's not how it's done here. Pretty sure Texas is a bit like that, actually. Couple have gone off, right, okay. I did read today somewhere that an asteroid called 1998 is passing by the Earth harmlessly, April 29. Now I haven't looked, Buttercup, but I'm sure if you typed in asteroid 29th of April on YouTube, there'd be 1,000 doomsday videos up already. And that's the reason people should have guns, KD. To defend. See, what I do, and Americans wouldn't agree with it, but let's say I go to off-grid Texas town. Let's say he's got 50,000 people there. I would make 1,000 honorary sheriffs. Now, they don't have the right to shoot people. They do have the right to defend people. If that means they have to shoot an offender, okay. But the deal trade-off would be there are 1,000 out of 50,000 that are honorary sheriffs. They don't get paid. It's purely a sign-up. It's like being a justice of the peace, if you like, literally. What it would mean is the trade-off would be the 49,000 don't have weapons. Because that makes it easy for the 1,000 honorary sheriffs to know that if someone else does have a weapon, they're a criminal. That's how it used to work. There used to be sheriffs, deputy sheriffs, and they would defend people. So if you've got 1,000 honorary sheriffs in KD's town, you feel comfortable. You've got these people and they're well respected and, level-headed. Yep, you do. You have it under concealed carry. But my point would there be a trade-off, and that is the other 49,000 don't have weapons. That certainly impedes the Second Amendment. I'm fully aware of that. But the trade-off is you have 1,000 people roaming your area knowing that if someone else who has a gun is going to rob a shop, they can pull out their weapon, warn them, and if need be, shoot them dead. I know it sounds very simplistic, but the people that should have weapons should be trained, not just because you can buy a gun. That's the point, Cody. Everyone has weapons. If we were brutally honest and grab 100 people from your area, maybe 50 would know how to use them. The other 50 just have them in a glove box, concealed or at home, but have never fired the damn things. Yeah, I understand. But you know my analogy that me and you have a blue in Australia, no matter how bad it got. You're just going to have teeth missing, I'm going to have a black eye. That'll be it. Yeah, even in Australia, I can still go and get weapons if I want them. I don't want them. And I've got 3 or 4 properties I could shoot on, which means I would be allowed to carry my weapons with me. But the bolt would have to be in a box in the vehicle, lockable key, and the weapon have no bolt in it at all. It can be behind the back seat. But I can drive around, police can pull me over, they'll check my licence, say, yep, no problem. But there are lots of weapons in my country that young gangs have. And they basically just shoot each other. It's the same in the US, let's be honest. It's mostly gangland warfare. It's been like that way in Australia since the 50s. But I don't live in America. I wouldn't impose my views. If I stayed there, I wouldn't say anything. It's your country. I just know the way we do it, we don't lose very many people. Yeah, having a weapon to defend yourself. It's one of those quandaries. Do you feel so threatened that the idea of getting a weapon to defend yourself? I'm not sure how many people would pull the trigger if someone broke into their home. There's that to think of as well. That's the reason you've got a Second Amendment, KD. I could read it to you, but I don't need to. That's the reason why Americans have the Second Amendment, to keep the bastards honest. Yeah, but you're like a low-slung sort of cowboy anyway, KD. You got that strip of, armour across your chest, like a bandito, and you got concealed weapons, 6 guns, and a box of Milo, just to throw in their face, to blind them.
Yeah, KD's hot. Buddy.
Yeah, people will pull the trigger, but there's some that won't. It's pretty known. In fact, I used to be trained in the prisons. We had a special division, which if there was an outbreak, we had the right to wound if prisoners were trying to escape. Didn't happen, but we were trained to do so. In fact, the only targets we had was from the kneecaps down. Shoot just below the feet, hopefully to hit the shin. That's the easiest way to do it. So that was practice. There's one guy I worked with who in 1991 actually fired a warning shot in Fremantle prison, and it hit the razor wire 20 feet away from where the guy was climbing, but then ricocheted and hit him in the chest and killed him. And the video proves he did not aim at the prisoner. It was a warning shot. Unfortunately, razor wire is high tensile steel and deflects easily. If someone broke into my home, I'd hurt them. Well, the governments of the world are the representations of the people. Yeah, it's not true. They're words. Governments are representations of the people. No, they're not. Governments are representation of lobbyists, of the rich bastards. Yeah, I'd make sure I'd hurt someone well and truly enough that I wouldn't even have to hold them down, KD, then call the police. Explain what I did. And I wouldn't be going anywhere in Australia. No one would arrest me. See, police are trained differently. In other words, they targets a body line, which goes from head to groin. KD knows what I'm talking about. Police officer will warn you, if he feels threatened, he's not going to shoot you in the kneecap. He'll go for core structure, which is from head, normally throat, down to groin. That's where they aim, and you will die. I don't know what standard issue in police force in America, but it used to be 38 or 45s, I think. You hit that centre mass, that's where all the arteries are. You're gone. And believe it or not, even without a weapon, if you strike somebody in those areas, they're most likely to die as well. I think undercover carry 9mm. I think that's what I was told years ago, or 38s. I think a lot of that comes from inexperience, Buttercup. You can train somebody, but it's their disposition under stress. How do they react? There's been plenty of cases in Australia, like when a bloke's been going off and he's threatening, he picks up a rake and swings it, and then an officer shoots him. And he forgot that he could probably have used mace first, but under duress and at the time, the thought process were not clear. Everybody acts different under different stress. Instinctively, humans are either fight or flight, no matter who you are. Yep, that's the old rule here. If you come at me with a knife, I shall shoot you. I think there's a lot of racism all around the world, Buttercup, even though it may be under the surface. There's no doubt if I was walking through a black African suburb and I was sort of being abused and threatened, I wouldn't feel very comfortable. And I would feel like I'm being racially attacked or targeted. Same in reverse, a black man walking through a white neighbourhood. So racism exists today. No, it's certainly better than it used to be, Gday. When I was a kid, racism was rife in every aspect of life. But it's not tolerated now, which is good. There was a prisoner once, an Aboriginal prisoner, and he was always sort of pushing the envelope. He threatened self-harm one night. And he gave this big speech. He says, I'm black, I've got HIV, and I've got nothing going for me. He was screaming at us. And I said, you've forgotten one thing. He said, what's that? I said, you're really ugly as well. He could not stop laughing for half an hour. He was trying to push the envelope, and I broke him up with humour. Yeah, we cuffed him, put him in his cell, and told him to behave himself. That was funny. It's one of the funny moments I remember in prison. Yeah, you forgot to mention you're real ugly as well. Why did I go to prison? I spent 7 years in prison, bully, for other people's offences. It's just what it was like. Hello, Tony. I wish it was 69. It was 102 here today. Buttercup, you would not have been bathing here today, in the middle of autumn. Yeah, good money in those days. Very good money. Then I used to work in the psychological department of the prison, mainly doing courses with people who had an affliction to having too many iPads. Yeah, it was a pretty tough course, but we got through some of it. You found a new phone number.
Well, if you're ringing,
You
go
should,
live and put it on speaker, Tony.
Yeah, do what you did years ago, mate.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Make sure you let us know. We'll come and watch you. We'll come listen.
Yep. Actually, your son was in here probably about 3 weeks ago. We spoke to him at length. Just let us know when you do it, Tony.
Yeah, let us know.
Don't spoil it for us.
Make sure it's a live chat so we can text.
Tell the real story that you were locked up. Actually,
Oh, for God's
some
sake.
nights I would spend in security because it's, what I had to do. Some nights I used to fight in the yards with the rest of the boys. Got shivved a couple of times, but I made it through. Oh, I think you're being warned, bully. Take that on board, son. Just open your lunchbox, sit there quietly and eat your Vegemite sandwich. I come from a land down under, where bully screams and buttercup thunders. Don't you cry, don't you cry.
No, we want you to do it, Tony. We want you to go live.
Yeah, you go live, mate.
And we'll come to you, Tony. Do a live chat.
Everything in life is based on behaviour. It boils down to a lot of things. One is if you are not willing to compromise or concede on some occasions, you want to sort of fight the wind all the way through life, well, it's going to be tough. Go with the flow. If you don't like something, move away from it. Life is tough. If someone told you otherwise, and you're wondering why the world is sort of crushing you, that's what the world's like. You've got to push back.
I suppose what it is, boy, because of your comment you said to tell us the real reason you got locked up. What it is, other people can say that and we can take it as a joke, but it's just because sometimes how you word things is not nice.
Yeah, you already know.
So,
You already know I was a prison officer. You already know.
You
that.
already know he was a prison officer, and it was so it's jokes about it. He says, yeah, I did 7 years in time in jail. I was a prison officer. It's just that sometimes how you word things, boy, that it's not taken funny. So, yeah, you've just got to like lighten up or just like realise what a sense of humour is.
Now, to answer Katie's question, is that no Chinese are allowed into Australia. They haven't been for about 6 weeks. 8 weeks, I think, January. They are not permitted. And mind you, no one's permitted to come into Australia. Zero. Welcome back, Mel.
Oh, you get stars, Mel.
You got that photo of me sitting on the bench with that female prison officer? I'll show Bully. No, if you're an Australian, Chinese Australian, you're welcome here. I don't smoke weed at all. So that's an innocuous question. I don't take drugs. I don't even take medications. And I think you've just been buttered. But hang around, Bully, I'm going to show you a photograph of when I was in prison. Just to ease your mind. It's coming, just be patient. There's one on the bench. That one. I'm not sure if you can see that, Bully. Maybe I'll hold the camera up.
He's been timed out by Buttercup.
Oh, has he?
Yeah. He's probably still watching.
Hey, can you pick the difference, Bully? The guy's in green and the guy's in khaki.
I'll give Buttercup a star. 2 stars.
So there you go.
I don't know, does Texas know, Bully? Do you know what?
There's another mate of mine who's actually a pilot. Oops, I think my camera's on the wrong angle. Sorry about that. Oop.
He looked like, what's his name? Isn't that one?
Any other pictures for Bully to see? No?
He might not be able to see it.
Like I said, he just can't comment. It's me with a fish. It's called a jewfish. Bloody beautiful eating. And
he's had numerous glasses since then.
there is a mate of mine who's about 6 foot tall, and someone took a photo of us, and he jumped in the air. So to this day, he tells everyone he's 6'11". So there you go.
Yes, well said.
So that might explain to you, Bully, that I was in prison for a different reason. And shame Night Rider's not here. Katie just asked about the glasses. Check that out, Gday. Na 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 na. Anyway, enough of the nostalgia. Weird sound, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Motorbike.
I don't know.
Miami
Sound like a
Vice.
tractor.
Yeah, Miami Vice, that's it.
My Katie, that was in the late 70s. Give me a break.
That's a motorbike, I think.
Sounds like a Massey Fergie dragging something behind it.
Yeah, special glasses, yeah. They're called Perving glasses.
Where's your Ferrari? Actually, I've got a Ferrari, and I've got a Lamborghini. It's just I haven't got any glue in the kit to put them together.
Can you see that?
That looks yum.
Buddy, that smells dinner.
Look at that. Yum. I've never owned a new car in my life. I don't value vehicles that much. I make sure they run well, they're efficient, comfortable, but I don't need to spend 60 grand on a car. It just sits outside most of the time. Yeah, she's a good cook. She's an artiste.
Yes.
With me, Buttercup, you'll get flavour. With Mel, you get flavour and faffing around.
You faff around sometimes. Mel's hubby's just as good too when he cooks, actually.
Have to get Mel and her husband over and have a come dine with me.
Yeah. We could do a come dine with me over the internet.
Yeah, it's good.
We can get off through Texas to do one. I can put the video together.
How are they supposed to taste it? That's what it's
No,
all
they
about.
have to do their own meal.
Yep. I'm okay to eat the same meal 2 nights in a row. That doesn't bother me.
So
I tend to, if we, like I made this lasagna, we'll freeze a couple up. But I like making more than we need because then we have easy meals to reheat. I was pretty slack with that lasagna today, though.
why?
Oh, I didn't break up the mince enough, and I was just...
Oh, it's fine.
No, it was fine. It was fine. Don't get me wrong. But Belle would have gone, presentation, 0. Never know, one day KD might come to Australia. Come back to Australia.
Yes, because he lived. How long did you live here for, KD?
Oh, wow. His mum's an Aussie.
Yeah, microwave.
No,
No.
in the oven.
Oh, we've got a new oven.
I want him
KD.
blocked. Get the off-grid tech, block him.
Just tell Buttercup.
Boot him. Mention the M word.
It's an old thing, Butty.
We've got one.
Seeds in his microwave used to be a big topic years ago with Texas and...
And you can reheat things in there, but I don't.
Water.
I don't even like reheating things in a microwave.
Well, I do. It's convenient. So
Yeah, I know.
we ain't getting rid of it. Oh, did I tell you, Butty, that KD's hot as well?
Katie's the pin-up boy.
Yeah. Yes.
He
Well,
travels between 2 states because that's women are always chasing him. He has to get away.
I have a microwave because I use it to reheat. Sometimes it's something I want and Seeds doesn't.
Popcorn.
Yeah.
I don't mind anyone using a microwave. I just don't want to use it myself. It's like if I've got a stew, and I have in the freezer, I'll take it out and put it in the fridge overnight, and then I'll just reheat it slowly in a pot. You can reheat it in a microwave, but when you start eating it, you'll have a bit of a cold spit, hot spot, cold bit.
Well, you just got to do it properly, hey, Buffy?
While doing it in a pot is the way it's done.
You just got to use the microwave properly.
When Buttercup gets here, I'll cook everything in a microwave. There's your meal. Scrawny looking chicken out of a microwave, grey, icky chicken. Or you could have it done my way.
Yeah.
Crispy, delicious, moist. Can you imagine cooking bacon and eggs in a microwave?
People do it.
I know. You get little bacon rack things and egg cookers.
And that's something I couldn't be bothered to do because that's more cleaning up. Spits everywhere unless you get a covered thing.
The only thing I ever used to cook in a microwave on night shift is I make myself a piece of toast, then I get a cup of hot water, and put it in the microwave, and put the egg in it and put a top on it for about 5 minutes, and then I put it back in the microwave for just about 20 seconds. Put the lid back on it,
At work.
and just leave it at night, and then I'd do my rounds and come back, tip out the water and have poached egg on toast. So I have cooked with a microwave, but that's the extent.
Yep, the new oven is very good. Yep, that's all I do, Button. It's just to reheat.
I remember people buying these oven bags for chickens and putting them in the microwave and
Or making a microwave
going around for dinner and thinking, what the hell is this?
or microwave cake. You have to eat it within an hour of making it in a microwave.
I forgot to tell you, I've got rice cream in a can that you like.
No, it's not made that with Mum.
Oh, okay. The kids will have it.
I don't like rice cream.
Like rice pudding, which you don't like either.
No, I don't like rice pudding either. And that reminds me, Katie, have you heard from
Yeah, pressure cookers are good.
Aussie Prepper at all? Just interested to know what's happening with him.
A nice piece of gravy. Yeah, yuck. It's like when people used to say, I'm just going to thaw the steak and then we'll cook it on the barbie. And they go, oh, okay. And they bring it out on a tray, half cooked, half raw. And say, doesn't this look yummy? I'm going, not really. Why don't you just take it out the night before and let it thaw? But people use it. I remember when microwaves first came out, all the cooks on television would use it. Bernard King, Gene Simmons.
And then convection ovens.
I used to like that English guy. What's his name? He ended up dying. He used to wear a hat, drink wine when he cooked. And he said, well, he did one show, he said, here is a microwave. And then you saw it being thrown off the cliffs of Dover.
Yeah.
And that is where it belongs.
Oh, well, as long as he's doing okay. Not that he's probably interested, but I'll send regards to him.
Yeah, my regards to him as well. He lives in a world of his own.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might make it back here one day, Katie. Good to see you on Australian soil. Come in autumn though, it's not so hot like today, 102. Yep, that's it in a nutshell. You're an alchemist in the kitchen.
Yep.
I would never make the same meal twice, exactly the same. Because it depends what I've got on hand.
And you've got to have a smoke detector because that tells you when your toast is ready.
Yeah, I was saying this the other night, Katie. Can you imagine that most of these people have been staying home who don't normally cook, but most places have smoke alarms. In some areas, all you hear is meep, 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 meep. It'd be like a cacophony. Food has only got to taste good for me. Probably not the best presentation I'll ever be, but as long as it tastes good, I'm good to go. Well, we might tootle off shortly. It's been a hot day, but I think tomorrow's down to 28.
Wow. Really?
That's a nice big drop from 39 and a bit.
Oh, then I get motivated to do the floor. I just didn't feel like doing it today.
At the moment it's still 80 degrees, but it's quite pleasant.
I don't know. I think we got lag.
Have we?
Yeah.
But you good people, have a good day. Most of you are in the north. Enjoy yourself. 23.
Wow.
I'd only be wearing a jumper, Ugg boots and tracksuit pants in that temperature. $80. Yeah, I've been noticing you've been getting some hot weather early, Gday. I looked at the other day, a week ago, Dallas was 90. I'm thinking that's a bit early. I hope you guys don't have a summer we had, because it's not ended here. Yeah, Fahrenheit. If it was 80 Celsius, you'd be dead. Anyway, have a great day. It's good night from the boss lady.
Love yous. Kiss. Have a good Easter thingy tomorrow. Find lots lots of eggs. If that's what
Yep,
you're doing.
if you're going for an Easter hunt, make sure it's on your land. Don't go next door,
Go
steal all the
vote,
kids. What was that?
Mel. What Mel?
Are we going now that Mel's back, or
Mel, are you back?
are you back, or are you just saying you're back? Because we'll go. Don't threaten me. No, we're going to go. Have a good night, Mel, and everyone else have a good day. And we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.